Hi, the book I decided to read for my book report was Grinding It Out by Ray Kroc. It's pretty much how McDonald's got to where it is today. I don't use, the only reason I chose this book was because it was already on the board. I personally don't even like McDonald's. It was pretty confusing at the beginning because it goes straight into talking about how he's already meeting with the McDonald's brothers and trying to figure out where to go with that. He was known as Mr. Multimixer. About the second chapter into the book, it talks about how he liked going to Cubs games with his dad. He liked to play the piano as a child, and then all of a sudden it goes back into talking about how he sold the multi-mixers and was selling paper cups for a living. And then it goes back into talking about how he had a serious meeting with the McDonald brothers, Mac and Dick, about how he wanted to join their team. From there, Kroc took over, and that was the beginning of the making of McDonald's. To own a franchise at the time, it will cost $950. By the time it came to the 70s, it cost $200,000 to have a license to franchise. Throughout his time at McDonald's, and by the time he was coming to the end of his career, he ended up turning the company over to Harry Sonneborn, and then later on to Fred Turner when Harry decided that he just wanted to take the money and leave. From the very beginning, Ray would always say he's green and growing, which means that he was always doing great and moving upward with wherever his dreams were taking him. So before it was even McDonald's and it was still owned by the McDonald's brothers, it was only shapes. Eventually they added on the hamburgers and the fries. The hamburgers are still, or the hamburgers back then were frozen, and the fries they blanched them and did all that, and they're still frozen like they are today. Eventually, they added on the Filet-O-Fish, the Egg McWuffin, and the hot apple pies. And each one of those ideas were ideas of other people that worked for McDonald's throughout the years. The idea of the Filet-O-Fish was actually the idea of Louis Groen. That idea came up because he said they need something to compete with Bob's Big Boy during the time. Later on in the book, it talks about how Ray said that they would never incorporate a hot dog into the menu because he doesn't know what's under the skin. This kind of made me laugh because if you have ever seen Super Size Me, then you know exactly where chicken nuggets come from. And it's almost the same thing. Since he was a kid, Ray loved going to Cubs games with his dad. So one day he came up with a brilliant idea that he just wanted to buy the whole team. The owner at the time said that wasn't going to happen. Maybe eventually he'll sell it, but not now. One day, him and his wife Joni ended up moving to San Diego, and from there he decided that he wanted to buy the San Diego Padres baseball team. After he bought the San Diego Padres, that's when the games started getting better, and he was a lot more involved than just another guy who bought the team. For his 75th birthday, Ray Kroc did nothing but give back to people. As Christmas gifts to some employees at McDonald's, he gave them stock for them, their wives, and their children. Eventually, Ronald McDonald houses were set up. These are home away from homes for parents with children in hospitals, ones that are super sick, like the ones with leukemia. And then this created the Ronald McDonald Foundation, which Alpha Delta Pi's across the nation support. One of the very last things Ray Kroc says in Grinding It Out is that turning 75 made him greener than ever.